Okay, thank you. And who is the next one? Name first, huh? Okay.
Hello, I'm Solace. So I will talk about the territorial sovereignty of Hong Kong in China. Everyone knows Hong Kong is a special administrative region of People's Republic of China. The relevant matters belong to internal affairs of the SAR is China's internal affairs, not to any external forces. John's declaration stipulates on 1997 July 1st, the British returned to Hong Kong. China resumed the exercise of sovereignty over Hong Kong. From this moment, the United Kingdom belonged to Chinese sovereignty and internal affairs of Hong Kong affairs without any role and status. Britain has no right to Hong Kong's affairs, including political reform and the investigation. Political reform issue is purely China's internal affairs. Never allow any external forces to interfere under any pretext. External force to interfere universal suffrage, highlighting the political reform issue, is related to national security. We hope that Hong Kong people can understand under these circumstances. The chief executive must be both loving China and Hong Kong to resist outside interference, safeguard national security solidarity. Hence, after the reunification, the Chinese constitution and the basic law of the Hong Kong SAR constitute the constitution basis. According to the Hong Kong Basic Law, is the Chinese constitution, not in the Joint Declaration. If any country is trying to interfere in China's sovereignty and internal affairs, is a violation of the Joint Declaration and international law. Furthermore, the Joint Declaration does not mention the issue of universal suffrage. The final implementation of the dual universal suffrage in Hong Kong is a Chinese government initiative to write the basic law. We believe that the Chinese government will promote Hong Kong's democratic development sincerely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Fiona. Third, I would like to talk about the decision made by China is based on the full practice of the Hong Kong Basic Law. According to the full practice of the Hong Kong Basic Law, Article 45, it states that the Chief Executive of the Hong Kong SAR shall be selected by election or through consultations held locally and be appointed by the Central People's Government. There is no such thing stating that the selection of the Chief Executive of the Hong Kong SAR should be qualified to the international standard. Also, the Basic Law Article 45 states that the ultimate aim is the selection of the Chief Executive by universal suffrage upon nomination by a broadly representative nominating committee in accordance with democratic procedures, which is clearly explained by the Chinese government's decision that the selection will be held in progress in 2017. Some parties in Hong Kong might misunderstood the interpretation of the Basic Law, accusing that with the Hong Kong Basic Law Article 26 stating the permanent residents of the Hong Kong SAR shall have the right to vote and the right to stand for election in accordance with law. However, we cannot put this upon the Hong Kong Basic Law Article 45 as it is a false interpretation of the rules. Therefore, against parties in Hong Kong should pay attention to the law itself, which indicates that the Chinese government's decision fits the requirement of the Hong Kong Basic Law completely in the selection of chief executive in Hong Kong.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Natalie. And many Hong Kongers say that this is not a real universal suffrage, or it is not a true democracy according to the Beijing government's framework of chief executive election. However, we need to think, is democracy really good as they said, or true democracy will bring harm to a region? Most of the countries with democracy in Asia, just like Japan, Thailand, or Philippines, are not as good as they thought when they were fighting democracy. For example, the former Philippine president Estrada stepped down due to his corruption. An opponent said true universal suffrage can make a better Hong Kong. However, no one can prove it. And at least, universal suffrage is not that success in Asia countries. And that universal suffrage really works. Thailand faced the 12th political takeover in May and thought of the political reform in 1932. The form of government has ranged from military dictatorship to electoral democracy. The Thai government has been attacked by the opposite political party for many years. There is something we all know. Thailand will not be the model that we want Hong Kong to follow. But Thailand is a democracy country, which they have a true universal suffrage. And their president won in the universal suffrage also. So let me think again. Is a true universal suffrage really works? And let me take another great case that they are having a universal suffrage which is similar to the framework from the Beijing government, and that is Singapore. People always use Singapore to do comparison with Hong Kong. And some critics said Hong Kong should learn from Singapore. And just like the political, the education or the housing policy. And however, Singapore doesn't have a real universal suffrage, as the People's Action Party is the one and the only one governing party since 1959. And Singapore people do have the right to vote for their prime minister, but they actually don't have the right to vote for the person they want, as there is only one political party. And as there is no another party who can get over half seats in the prime minister's office, Singapore is not actually a democracy country. But the society is peace and its economy is still growing. And look back to those democracy countries in Asia. You can see some of them are poor and some of them are messy. And universal suffrage cannot solve everything. And the tragedy of Philippines and the success of Singapore reveal that a good political system needs to fit in the will and need to fit in the society. And in Hong Kong, we need to make sure all parties in the society can benefit from the electoral reform. So the chief executive election actually need to fit in the actual situation in Hong Kong. So we must accordance with the basic law and the framework from the Beijing government. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Monica. Nowadays, because the umbrella movement, Hong Kong people are fighting for the civil nomination. However, civil nomination is not essential element of the political system. For example, England or French, they have their own ruling party, and the system are developed quite well. So actually, they don't need the civil nomination. However, Taiwan and South Korea, they are the one who are similar with Hong Kong situation, because this kind of country they need time to fight for the election. According to the report released by Hong Kong Policy Research Institution in 2013, civil nomination is not a must in around the world. only some candidates who do not have a party to elect, they may need a civil nomination in order to participate in the election. But until now, we cannot see anyone who use a civil nomination candidate that can win any presidential election. Just take Taiwan as an example. James Song, who are representing the People First Party, she got 400,000 of the citizens to nominate as a presidential election, but finally she lose. So we can see that if we have civil nomination, we can nominate any citizen we want. But even they got enough nomination and join the election, but finally, if they don't have any party or the tycoon to support them, they always lose. Taiwan, who established the country in 1949, but they have the direct vote for their president is 1996. So how about Hong Kong? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Emery. In my opinion, the NPC's decision can maintain social stability and promote economic development. The framework of Hong Kong's chief executive election is to prevent those against the Central People's Government from being Hong Kong's chief executive. For example, the following three kinds of people cannot be granted by the Central People's Government. First, people who accept foreign support and carry out political activities in Hong Kong. Second, people who advocate or support country's divisions, people always against any policy proposed by the central government. If the elected chief executive were to be a person as mentioned above, he would be only responsible for political struggle and couldn't guarantee the stable development of Hong Kong. A society full of political struggle is certainly not a harmonious society. When the 10th anniversary of Hong Kong handover in 2007, the economy of Hong Kong was more than the best level in history. In December of the same year, the NPC proposed a clear timetable for universal suffrage to develop a stable political situation. When the international financial crisis in 2008, Hong Kong successfully went through. The economy was even better than other economically developed cities in the same period, maintaining the prosperity and stability. And what does this mean? Hong Kong, as a small economy, is easily affected by external economic fluctuation. So maintaining political stability is very important. And the NPC's decision becomes an important way to maintain social stability and promote economic development. Now, the most obvious social problem is that Hong Kong is into a vicious cycle of economy and political conflict. On the one hand, economic and social problems haven't been solved. People have great grievances and complaints, and those complaints are released on political issues, like the issue of universal suffrage. On the other hand, the issue of universal suffrage led to political difference and conflict, which had the impact of the government's authority and governance capacity. It caused dissent between Hong Kong government and all walks of life. They could not condense force to solve economic and social problems. Therefore, we should get through this, work out of predicament. We should accept the NPC's decision and move towards democracy, instead of blindly objection. Otherwise, the democratic process would have no progress or fundamental improvement, even be gradually monopolized in China's development process, finally turn into a mediocrity. Thank you.
Hey. Thank you. Thank you. We just finished the pro-size presentation. To sum up, why we accept the framework? One, because it is the election process or the framework in 2017's CE election is one, universal suffrage. Second, although the nomination candidate procedure may not be the best way, but it's in line with the basic law. Third, the decision made by the Beijing government is maintaining Hong Kong political, economic stability. And fourth, the full democracy, if you say that full democracy is not very successful in most of the Asian countries, so some kind of limitation may be necessary. Okay, that is the all summing up of this group's presentation. Okay, I'm now handing to the con side, okay?
Okay.
Right, so.
You guys be ready to prepare questions for them.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Hello, I'm Sammy, and we are the representative to object the Beijing decision on 2017 Hong Kong Chief Executive election. Hong Kong began as a coastal island geographically located off the southern of China, and Hong Kong became a crown colony in 1843. Then Britain returned Hong Kong to China in 1997. In the Joint Declaration, the People's Republic of China promised that under the one country, two systems policy, Hong Kong's previous capitalist system and lifestyle would remain unchanged for at least 50 years, or until 2047. China said Hong Kong people need to follow the basic law. However, Hong Kong people wanted to choose their chief executive themselves. So, the National People's Congress announced the framework of Hong Kong's chief executive election. We think that this scheme cannot fulfill our needs and expectations. We need the real universal suffrage and want Beijing government to take back this framework. On our side, democracy is not a simple thing, and we know that it is not easy to achieve, but we think that we have right to have it. We think that the chief executive should be elected by one man, one vote. We want to choose our future by ourselves. No matter what the result is, we will accept and tolerate. Thank you.
And hi, I'm Emily. In accordance with Article 31 of the Constitution of the People's Republic of China, Hong Kong has special administrative region status which provide constitutional guarantees for implementing the policy of one country, two systems. The basic law, Hong Kong's constitutional document, was approved in March 1990 by National People's Congress of China and came into force of 1st of July 1997. The Hong Kong government is economical liberal, but currently the universal suffrage is only granted in district council elections and in elections for a part of the legislative council. Under the current system, the head of the government, chief executive of Hong Kong, is just elected through an electoral college with the majority of its members elected by a limited number of voters, mainly within business and professional sectors. For example, the four previous chief executives, following the end of British rule in 1997, were elected by a committee of 1,200 people, many of whom had strong ties to China. The reason why we oppose to the current political reform suggested by the Beijing is that the election progress for the chief executive involve a screening process that will swipe out candidates deemed suitable for the position by Beijing, incited by a comment made by a deputy of National Public Congress at the off-the-record gathering. Finally, we Hong Kong people want to choose our chief executive who may not be approved by Beijing. Therefore, the present framework suggested by the China government of choosing our chief executive is not what Hong Kong people want. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Phoebe. Besides the above reasons, the example of the universal suffrage in other regions also tell us that we cannot accept the Chinese decision. First of all, I would like to emphasize the 1,200 members of the nominating committee in the Chinese decision. The 1,200 members formed by 4 sectors. They are politicians, experts, businessmen, and the religious cultural. Each sector have 300 members. Only 250,000 qualified to vote for the 1,200 members. In other words, the members in the nominating committee can't represent the majority, only can represent the 1,200 members and the 250,000 people who vote for the nominating committee. On the contrary, the universal suffrage in Taiwan nominated the president through 2 methods. One is nominated by the major political parties, another one is the person who obtained more than 1.5% of the citizen petition nomination can count. As a fair and open universal suffrage, the majority should be qualified to participate in the nomination. Obviously, the Taiwan universal suffrage citizens can nominate the person that they think can represent them. But under the nominating committee of the Chinese decision, Hong Kong people lose their right to choose the person. We all are passive. Some people may claim that Taiwan is different from Hong Kong. Every place have their situation. Undoubtedly, Taiwan and Hong Kong have their history, but Taiwan is also similar to Hong Kong. The sovereignty in Taiwan is not approved by many countries. Hong Kong is not a country. It's just a special administration region of China. But all this not equal that the future of Hong Kong people controlled by the 1,200 members in nominating committee. We should learn from Taiwan. Hong Kong is ours. We must need to vote the person can represent the majority in Hong Kong. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ken. Accepting the National People's Congress framework of Hong Kong chief executive election in 2017 may lead to many serious consequences. Joseph Lam was a former member of Hong Kong Central Policy Unit from 1998 to 2003, which was directly responsible for advising the chief executive. He said, accepting the framework will lead to many short-term and long-term effects. Lam said, if the chief executive elects by one man, one vote, he or she can implement any controversial issues, including the Basic Law Article 23. The Basic Law Article 23 is an anti-subversion law. It states that the HKSAR should enact laws on its own to prohibit any act of treason, secession, sedition, subversion against the Central People's Government. The proposal of legislation of Article 23 lead to more than 500,000 people participate in the first July protest in 2003, which made the government stop the legislation of Article 23. He said, although the chief executive will be elected under the screening mechanism, the chief executive can still say that he or she can represent the mainstream public view because he will be voted by every eligible electors. The CE can say that he or she is under the election of universal suffrage, so the reintroduction of Article 23 is based on the public will. In the social aspect, if the chief executive is elected by universal suffrage with Hong Kong characteristics, the social controversy will be more serious. We can see the controversy of Hong Kong in the Occupy Central movement. The society is now dividing into 2 sides, supporting the Occupy Central and opposing the Occupy Central. which leads to the result of social privilege. Also, the relationship between police and citizens are the worst since 1997. The government authorized the police can use excessive forces such as tear gas and pepper spray to deal with the peaceful demonstrators. If the CE used the power to carry out controversial items, the social discontent will lead to more and more civil disobedience movements to oppose the government, and the government will continue to use police forces to stop the protests. This will become a vicious cycle and make the government policy more difficult to implement in the future. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kathy. And because we are not satisfied with the government framework, so we have suggested 3 proposals for the central government to choose. So there was a 6-2 popular vote before. This voting was held in 2014, 22nd of June. And in these 3 proposals also include the civil nominations. The civil nominations demands a candidate to secure the signed endorsements of 1% or more of the registered voters. And in these 3 proposals, there is Alliance of True Democracy. This party suggests 3 channels for nominations. Besides civil nominations, she suggests the political party nominations. It requires a political parties receiving 5% or more of the total valid vote in the last legislative council direct elections, and so they can nominate a candidate. And also this alliance also suggests that the nominating committee shall not refuse to endorse the above nominees who meets the legal requirements. Political conditions such as love China, love Hong Kong, and no confrontations with the central government are not acceptable. The second proposal is proposed by People Power. This party suggested the nominating committee shall comprise all popularly elected direct councillor and legislative councillor at present. For the third student proposal, they suggested the nomination by the nominating committees shall comprise popularly elected legislative councillor. We hope the central government can consider one of the proposals to let Hong Kong have a universal suffrage. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tracy. I'm going to talk about the Occupy Central movement after the Beijing framework had been announced. The background is that the Occupy Central started on the 28th of September, and its purpose is to support the students for taking back the Civil Plaza at the first place. And more people joined after the tear gases were released by the police. And so the Occupy Central, aka the Umbrella Revolution, had started. The demands of protesters are to get the universal suffrage and take down the Beijing framework. And we want to choose our own CE, that's the chief executive. And the protest is very powerful because more than 270,000 people came forward, and they blocked the roads in about 5 districts. For example, Admiralty, Central, and Mong Kok. And the movement had lasted for almost a month, and until now they are still there. the protesters neglected the tear gases and plastic bullets from the police, the threats to them, and they bear risks of being arrested, even if most of them are students, and that can affect their future. And a meeting of student leaders and the government officials were held because of the movement, so it is very powerful. And so this movement showed the huge dissatisfaction towards the Beijing framework from Hong Kong people. And our eager for freedom is really huge, and we are fear for being controlled by the Chinese government. And we showed our passion for universal suffrage in the movement. So we think that the political reform is necessary in Hong Kong. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, the opposite side. And to sum up, that the 2017 elections framework, although it is the universal suffrage in the final stage, that means one man, one vote in the election process. But the nomination process, the nomination procedure is very limited. It's only a nomination committee can nominate a candidate, and that nomination committee is only comprised of 1,200 members, and those members was selected from the only 250,000 people. So it is a very unlimited, and it is not democratic way to choose the candidate. So they are this is the reason why they oppose the whole framework. And one thing I think I need to correct. You said that those protesters is not afraid of bullets, rubber bullets, plastic bullets. But I don't think they open fire on threats. Okay, threats. Okay. All right. So this is the our side, and I'm now handing the mic to your side.
Yes.
Okay, good.
And so our plan is, with the remaining last maybe another 10, 15 minutes, for our students who have done these projects on individual countries to now ask some of your students questions from their individual country perspectives, about the Beijing framework for the nomination of the chief executive by the 1,200 person committee, and basically asking both sides their opinion given their countries.
Sure.
So that's, I think we'll bring up individual students from each group to ask those questions, and then it'll give your students a chance to respond to those questions.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. So who would like to ask a question?
Yeah, my gosh. This is a general question.
Okay, well, if you want to ask, come up a general question, feel free to come up and come up to the mic. Yeah, anyone go? Yes, any of you, that's fine. Ask a question, look right into the screen. I think it hears pretty well, so go for it, and just, say your name and ask your question.
Hi, my name's Peyton Bailey.
Hi.
How would you define universal suffrage?
So the question being, so when we say universal suffrage, right, you have one side saying that there's, one side saying that the nomination committee is not constitute universal suffrage, and then the other side saying that you have to have, as long as people can vote for the chief executive, and that constitutes universal suffrage. So what is that? Is that just simply voting, or is it two?
I understand that. What is the meaning of universal suffrage? I think that both sides have different interpretation on that. So any one of the pro side to define what is a universal suffrage? Because you are supporting the framework, so do you think the Beijing's framework is a kind of a universal suffrage election process?
Actually, we think definition of universal suffrage to be people who live in Hong Kong, the Hong Kong residents who have the right to vote for electing the chief executive. So if we don't care much about the nomination committee, but we do want to just vote. We have our own vote for the election.
Thank you. So go to a very basic universal suffrage, that means one man, one vote. So the whole framework provides the Hong Kong people have one man, one vote to choose their CE. So from their side's point of view, it is a universal suffrage, okay? How about the opposition side?
And in my opinion, the universal suffrage is a process is democracy in both process. That means in the election process and the nomination process. Because the nomination process can choose the candidates to let the eligible electors to choose their chief executive. If the candidates are not liked by the citizens, then the election process is no use, because the eligible electors cannot choose what they want. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So they think that the framework is not the true universal suffrage because it was limited in the nomination process. So those candidates only chosen by the very limited nomination committee. So the people will not enjoy the full universal suffrage. Well, can we answer your questions?
Yes, to answer my question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other question?
Hi, I'm Killian. For those against this question is for those against the framework. For those against the framework, even in the United States, there were steps towards true universal suffrage in terms of the right to vote for various groups. The United States also has electoral college for the presidential election, meaning that the election is not a purely popular vote. Many effective democracies have developed slowly throughout time to become free, open democracies. Would it be more beneficial to accept the 2017 framework for the time being and then move forward towards a more open democratic process? Do you see this as an option? If not, what would be the harm in doing so?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Very good. Good question. So if I could just recapitulate, as you've done for your students, Killian's asking is the United States has an electoral college that elects our president. Technically, even though we cast a popular vote, we technically don't elect our president directly. So what's the harm in a nominating committee?
Yes. Opposite side? Okay, because the U.S. president is not the direct election process. They have the U.S. president is elected by electoral college. So they are not the direct elections, and so they don't see any best sides of using the best side in this 2017 framework, and why you don't accept the framework first and then gradually improve the original. Try to answer. So they basically want you to why you don't accept it first and then gradually to accept to improve the framework. Okay.
Yeah. Let's get through here.
We don't think that's an option because we know very clearly that after the Chinese government has decided has their decision, they won't take back when we are not sure they will give us more. So we have to fight for more, and at the current situation, many of the parties are pro-Chinese government. So mostly not representing Hong Kong people. So we just want to have, because Hong Kong is so small, can't compare to U.S. Council. So I think we should have the right to get one man, one vote. Yes.
Okay, actually, it cannot compare because Hong Kong is a small place, so we can have a one man, one vote. And US is a big place, so you may use the electoral college. And the second thing that they do not believe that there may be another improvement after we accepting this framework. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Other questions? It's not as my country, it's not going to Taiwan. Okay, that's what Taiwan. Hi, my name's Nate. I just wanted to get y'all's opinion on the status of Taiwan. Do you think it's a sovereign country, or would you say that it's part of China as a special autonomous region?
So you're asking both sides or what?
Both sides.
Alright. So the question is very simple. What do you consider Hong Kong? Hong Kong is the the part of China or is a sovereign country?
Sure.
Well, let them maybe answer that way.
Okay, well, both, but also Taiwan.
Yeah, Taiwan what? Taiwan is a sovereign country or part of China?
Yes.
So you're asking the both sides whether they think Taiwan is a country or the sovereign under China, is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And think about it in terms of Hong Kong and kind of Hong Kong's place and how that affects the viewpoints towards the universal suffrage.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Try. Anyone try to answer that? Okay.
Well, I think Taiwan is a part of China, definitely. And Taiwan has different situations from Hong Kong. They are two different places, so you cannot just compare Taiwan to Hong Kong.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think that it is suitable to compare Taiwan and Hong Kong, because I think that no matter the Taiwan is part of China or it is a country, and I think that it can compare with Hong Kong because we were a colony of British.
Okay. Cannot be 100% comparable because we do have a different history background.
Right. Okay. And Mike or yeah. Sure.
I'm Mike. How's it going?
Hi.
I just had an interesting question, something that was on my mind, I guess. That gets kind of away a little bit from the chief executive thing, but it has to do with the democratic protests in general. You know, because they're calling it like an Occupy movement. We had a similar movement in the U.S. And what I wanted to see was, after explaining the U.S. movement, if it's similar in terms of why the movement started besides just an election for the chief executive. So let me explain that. In the U.S., the movement had to do with growing income inequality, and I mean that was the main point of ours. And I think, as far as I've read recently, that's also an issue in Hong Kong, as well as I know a lot of industrial jobs have went to China, mainland China. I know there's public welfare concerns too. So how does that factor into your Occupy movements, and are the movements more broad in terms of democratic reform in general and trying to have that constituency, that public welfare constituency addressed, or is it just purely to get the chief executive in there? Or I mean it's just some pick your brains a little bit.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you for your questions. The question is very simple. What do you think about the reasons of Occupy Central movement? Are they purely because of the dissatisfaction of the framework, from Beijing, or they have other reasons, like about economic reasons or other reasons? What do you think? What do you think? Just express your own idea.
Hi, I'm Oscar. I think the reason is that
he is a technical staff, technical student.
In my opinion, I think they actually the special administrative region is the Hong Kong special one in the world. So that I think the Hong Kong government should continue their politicals and politics by their own. In one country, two systems, I think the central government should not to do anything to distract the Hong Kong government about their politics. So in this stage, I think the Hong Kong people is asking not only for the universal suffrage, the political systems, but also the they don't like the central government to disrupt this in very high level. So I think the Hong Kong people is asking to maintain their unique and a high individual stage. I think is it.
Okay. So any. Just your own opinion. Yeah, no problem.
I have different opinion. I think Occupy Central is an illegal movement, and it is out of control now. Hong Kong now has many social problems and economic problems, and people have complaints, and they put the complaints on the political problems. So they pointed at the issue of universal suffrage. They don't think it's a real universal suffrage because they do not believe the central government, because the development in mainland China is very fast now, and Hong Kong is now developed, and it has no progress. So maybe I think people are willing to see a better environment in political issues. So they come to participate in Occupy Central, but I don't think it's a good choice.
Thank you.
I don't agree with her opinion because Occupy Central is not about social complaints. It's just about we want to choose our own chief executive, and we want universal suffrage. That's the main point. Maybe there are some people want to express their other complaints, but it's not the whole point of the movement. And she mentions that China developed fast enough, but we can see that it is corruption. There are corruption everywhere, and we have cultural conflict between Hong Kong people and Chinese people. So I don't think it's a good choice to suddenly merge into one place, and we will just fight back. We just don't want to be a place like China, and corruption everywhere, and we just want to maintain our peaceful society now. Yes.
So you see there's a very divided opinions on analyzing the reasons of this Occupy Central movement. So the question is very in-depth questions, and it's very hard to different people have different opinion. So if you have a chance to come to Hong Kong and to go to those sites, and you will see this. Most of the people in those sites will say, oh, we want the true democratic way of choosing our chief executive. But when you look into the details of those slogans, you will find that some people are not satisfying with the too expensive, the housing price is too expensive and they cannot purchase a flat because of those, they do not believe central government because they're thinking they're corruption, and they have their own. We do have our own distinct value, and not in line with those mainland people. So and also some of them thinking that those rich people were very bad, and they just grab all the resources and not giving much to the grassroots people or to those students or to those teenagers, young adults. So a lot of different reasons. So when you come to Hong Kong, you will see that it is a complicated reason to support this Occupy Central movement. Okay? Can we answer your questions?
Yes. Do you have one more question? Do you have time for one more question?
Yeah, sure.
One more question? You want to go?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Lou. I'd like to ask if the one man, one vote doesn't work, will the second choices will be making the nomination committee more diverse, as stated for universal suffrage. The right to vote is not restricted by race, sex, belief, wealth, or social status. So what do you think, making the nomination committee more diverse, not just strictly to wealthy people, that 1%, will it be the next step to the upcoming election to 2017?
Okay. What is the next step of the improvement of a nomination committee? Do you have any? How about the opposition side? How can you improve the nomination committee?
If we don't have another choice, we may choose this, but actually we have another proposals for the nominating committees. Just like the People Party suggested, the nominating committee shall comprise all popularity elected district councillor and legislative councillor as presents. Those of the councillor are voted by registered voters, so they may represent the people to vote for the CE instead of the nominating committees nowadays.
Okay. Right. Okay. So, any other questions or the time?
Well, I think we're all out of time. But I wanted to, on behalf of my class, thank you all for taking the time. Those are some very interesting, well-reasoned statements. Your English is fantastic. You speak better than some Americans. But thank you all so very much. We've learned a lot from this exchange. We really, really appreciate it.
Well, can I have one more final question? The very most final question is that, because when we're talking about, we have a chance to have a video conference with Virginia Military Institute, and some students are asking me, Military Institute, are you training the military people? Are you training the army or what? So can you just briefly introduce your institute to us?
Oh, sure, of course. So the BMI is what we call a public liberal arts college. We don't actually report to the U.S. government. We're not affiliated with the U.S. government. We're affiliated with the state of Virginia, so one of the 50 states. And so we prepare students for a life of public service, but not all our students go into the military. So for example, I don't really have any military background, but I wear the uniform because we have a military lifestyle on campus. And about half of our students go to the Army or to the Navy or to the Marines, but then half of our students go on to normal careers with their bachelor's degrees. So there are schools in America like West Point, where all those students go into the military and they're tied to the U.S. government. We are a smaller state institution that is a liberal arts college. So we're a teaching college with a military structure. And so we wear uniforms, but it's not the same as going to West Point or the Naval Academy.
Right, thank you. So do you have any questions now? Okay. No, okay, thank you. We very much appreciate of this video conference, and looking forward that we may have another cooperation and other kinds of conference later, maybe.
Yes, that sounds great, Tayo. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Good night, and good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
On the ring there.